if this is your first app, spend less than $2,000 would be my preference, right? $2,000 or less. It may not be the biggest thing in the world. You're probably not going to build Facebook, but it can kind of like be an education, get you in the game, get you started, and you're not losing a whole bunch of money off the bat.
The most dangerous business podcast in the world.
Entrepreneurs and ambitious people, if you want to build a powerful, profitable, impactful business, if you want to study and fall in love with the process, if you want to acquire the skills, habits, and determination you need to level up in business and in life, that's fantastic because I'm working on the same thing. This is the Game of Grow movement. Welcome back to the Game of Grow podcast. This is, of course, the most dangerous business podcast in the world. You already know. This episode first aired on the I Don't Do Budgets podcast in June, but I really want to share it with you guys here as well. Shout out to the host, Sierra Howard, for a great conversation, for really drawing out the stories and the lessons. I hope you guys are going to pick up those stories, those lessons, and run with them yourself. It's a little bit lengthy, so let's not prolong this thing. I will say that if you enjoy this one, you definitely need to check out the Masterclass replay at appmagic.co/replay. Please don't underestimate it just because the content is free. I've really worked to pack it with current information that I've learned from the field that you can actually put to use and monetize. This isn't that some people like to put some 5 years old stuff. This is not that. And for those of you who are more serious about making this a business, I encourage you to apply for App Moguls at appmagic.co/apply. Finally, for those of you who receive my emails, I recently put out a call asking, as always, how I can help. So let me just read that back to you. If you are working on an app, have an idea for an app, want to get into apps or anything of the sort, just let me know a few details about it and I'm happy to tell you how I would approach it in your shoes, what my game plan would be, how I would get it built, market, monetize, build community, anything. No strings attached here, just looking to help if I can. And I want to see more of us grabbing these opportunities where it's possible. So just be resourceful, find a way to hit me up, whether it be email, social media, whatever the case may be. And of course, subscribe, rate, review, 8 stars only, tell a friend to tell a friend, and let's get right into the show. Oh, and one final thing. One thing I really want to do is to start answering more of your questions live on the show. We'll actually do it live on a YouTube video and bring it over here to the podcast as well. So I'm not hard to find. Find me, let me know your questions, and I'd even love to have some of you read them for us on the show.
Today in the guest chair, we have Moyo Okome. He is a former employee of IBM and Microsoft. Moyo has spent the last 8 years in mobile apps, and he has built, published, and sold a portfolio of 100 plus mobile apps, which have collectively been downloaded over 12 million times worldwide, including several achieve coveted top 10 and top 100 status. He is an expert in the mobile app publishing, marketing, and monetization. He is the author of the 7 Steps to App Success. He's the advisor of the App Moguls Accelerator program, in which he helps non-technical people build and grow their own portfolio of apps. He's also the host of the brand new podcast, Game of Grow, which debuted in the top 100 business podcasts on iTunes. Realizing through his research that coloring book apps provide millions of people around the world with relaxation and entertainment, grossing millions of dollars in the process, but not one of them represented Black people, who are some of the most active users of mobile apps. He recently partnered with his wife, Nikayla Matthews Okome, to solve the problem and create Color Noir, the first and only coloring book app celebrating Black people and the culture. It is the beginning of an exciting new direction of his career in this space. So, again, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. We got a speaking engagement coming up in Barbados. You got to come introduce me.
I ain't gonna lie, I was sweating a little bit. I was like, okay, impressive bio.
Nah, I appreciate it. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, I am so excited to talk to you today because I am just thrilled to know more about apps, and with your experience and your background in the app space, I feel like you just have so much to offer. So I am very appreciative of you being here today.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yes. So I always like to start out with, first of all, who is Moyo and what did you learn about money growing up?
Sure. So my name is Moyo Okome. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I am a Nigerian. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a husband now. If you talk to my wife's nieces, they'll be like, "That's weird. That's weird that you guys are married." But I'm a husband now. I'm a son. I'm a brother. And I'm just somebody who likes to try to provide value and help people. So I hope we can do that today. In terms of money growing up, one of the things I learned about money was, that still serves me well, is to live below your means. To really not buy things that you can't afford. And that was instilled in me. Like I remember everybody, I grew up in Brooklyn, so everybody was getting the Jordans. That's probably, I don't know, that's probably a nationwide thing. I never saw a pair of Jordans. Well, I saw them, but I never had a pair of Jordans. They said, "Hey, Converse is just as good. Why don't you get these N ones?" Right. But it was a good thing that I just learned to do that. And it allowed me more freedom and flexibility later on in life. So that'd be one of my early money lessons, I think.
So growing up, did you ever think about apps at all? Like, well, first of all, growing up, apps probably weren't even a thing.
Nah, they didn't really exist back then.
But did you ever see yourself in like the technology space or anything like that? Or were you ever curious as to did you ever know what you wanted to do growing up? Did you ever kind of foresee this in any way?
I had some ideas. So growing up, I definitely knew that I wanted to do something that was going to make me a lot of money. Like that early on, that was a focus. So I recall, at times we'd have bill collectors calling the house for various things. And I just knew that I never wanted to be in a position where I had to worry about money or where that would be a concern. Right. So early on, I knew I wanted to make a lot of money. In terms of the technology side of things, I was curious about just how things work. I would take things apart. One time we were learning about some different computer-related stuff in school. I decided I was going to write a program on my mom's computer, and I ended up kind of destroying the whole thing. And they had her dissertation on it. So that was we were able to recover the data, get everything back. But I definitely had an interest in technology for a long time, whether it be video games or just messing around with the computer or doing things I wasn't supposed to. So for sure.
So how did you even get started into developing your first app? Where did that start?
Got you. So that happened. I was still working a 9-to-5. So I was working for Microsoft at the time. This was my post MBA job. Worked, it was a difficult job for me to land, but I was happy to be there. But it quickly turned into a situation where there were a lot of politics, and I guess I wasn't doing the best. I actually got demoted at a certain point. So I was just at a low moment in life, and I was looking for something else. And I wasn't feeling challenged at work. I didn't feel like I was learning anything. I was just generally feeling negative all the time. So I was just looking for something, whether that was going to be a new job or whether that was going to be an entrepreneurial opportunity. And as I was just searching around for different things, I ran into a marketer online who was talking about he's going into the app world. I started following him for a number of months, seeing what he was doing, seeing the kind of money he was making. I saw that he was able to create this app one time, and then it would then produce income again and again and again and again, and then he could produce more of them, and they do the same thing. So he got up to having about 12, 15 of these things, some of them making like $1,000 a month, some of them were making like $5,000 a month. So I was like, you know what, rather than do what I'm doing right now, I'd rather do what he's doing. So when he offered a course, that was a few months down the line, I jumped on it. It was way too much money at the time, but I was like, this is going to be my Christmas gift to me. I got a signing bonus anyway. I live below my means, so I have money set aside. I need something, so this is going to be the thing that I try. And that kind of led to me learning how to create apps using outsourced developers, and that eventually led to my first app and led to the business as well.
I love that you mentioned that you lived below your means. So when you were able to invest in this course that you said was expensive, but it's because you kind of lived below your means and you were, good with your money and able to just jump on the opportunity when it arose. So that's key right there.
Right. Yeah, no, for sure. So like sometimes I say my secret weapon at that time. So, a lot of times, let me take a step back. A lot of times people will say, okay, how do I find an investor? How do I get somebody to do this? Right. And I feel that a lot of times in the beginning, that's really not necessary, or for 90, I don't know what the percentage is, but for most businesses, you don't necessarily need an investor. You can really invest in yourself if you're just smart about what you already have, and you make it work to your advantage. So my coworkers, we were making a good salary at this time, relatively good. It was like a 6-figure salary, right? But I figured I was making a lot less before. I was making $60,000 in my previous job, and I feel like I still live good. I had money left over. So if I just keep my standard of living the same, then I'm going to have a lot of money, right? It's like, right. So by doing that, I was able to invest in myself, kind of like you said.
No, that's dope. Being able to become your own investor, So a lot of times people will work, 9-to-5 jobs, but they will just spend all their money on material things and not save and not, invest in themselves in any type of way.
Right.
And then when they do want to actually invest in themselves, they don't have the money to, So yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that you were thinking more so ahead of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I shout out to my parents for helping me with that one.
No, seriously. And even for anyone even listening, just thinking about if you work a 9-to-5 job right now, you might not even know what you want to do in the next 5 years. But even if you could start saving right now to prepare yourself, you never know what opportunity will come along the way. So start thinking about it right now.
That's a fact. So my first job out of college, I was making an hourly wage. It probably added up to about $30,000 a year. I didn't do everything right in terms of lining up my internship, so I didn't get the best job. But even then, so I was living at home. My expenses were low, but I always had money. There was no time where I'd be broke because I knew what was coming in. So I'm going to spend less than I'm coming in. So then I have money, right? And that's kind of the way I've always thought about it.
Yeah. Having that gap. I always talk about that gap in between your expenses and your income. And instead of, paying for an expensive apartment, you could be investing in yourself, investing in your savings,
right.
Keeping more of your money to you. So you can be able to do the things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. You talked about the app and you talked about how you found someone to invest in. Let's talk about your first app and what inspired you. Where did it come from? Where did you start?
My first app was probably pretty terrible, and it wasn't a financial success, but I was still proud of it because I was able to make something that started up here. Nobody can see I'm pointing at my head, but it started in my mind, and I was able to make it happen so that it would actually be on the App Store. People could download it. That was super exciting to me. So it was actually a game. I decided that, okay, Mario Kart is a popular game. So let me make a game that's like Mario Kart, but on the phone. Except it's going to have these cartoon characters I make up, whatever. So it wasn't a great app, but it did get a few hundred downloads, and it just kind of started me down this road.
So did you develop the app yourself, or did you have a team that you worked with? How did you create it?
So I did not develop it myself. I went and hired a developer from a site called Odesk. Now it's called Upwork.com. They merged with Freelancer.com. So I hired a developer from there. I hired an artist from there. And, we're talking about, I think the whole thing definitely cost me less than $1,000 to get that done. I'm not sure exactly what the split was. My first artist, I had to move on from because he didn't really speak English that well. I forget what country he was from. But yeah, at the end of the day, hired another one, hired the developer, and got it done that way.
So what would you need to even come to a developer with? Like, you have the idea, you find a developer, what do you even tell them that you want? How do you get your idea from your head to theirs?
Sure. So I think the easiest way to do it is, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. So really just putting it down on paper into a picture. They call it a wireframe, but you can really use a pencil and paper, take a picture with your phone, and then send them that image. And on that picture, you want to show, okay, these are going to be the different screens in my app. This is the home screen that you see when you enter. This is the login screen, right? These are the buttons that are here. This is where the picture is going to be. And when you press this button, then it goes to this page. You can use arrows. Then you can, if you want, you can combine this picture with voice notes. If you need to explain certain things, you can use screenshots from other apps that exist. And it doesn't have to be super technical, really. You just need to get your point across in a way that is relatively unambiguous, if that makes sense.
Yes, that does make sense. Okay, so that I think that painted the picture for me because I was like, well, how do you even explain to him what it should look like? But
Right.
This is kind of like if you are wanting a website done, you kind of give them a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and say, okay, this is kind of what I'm going for. This is the look, these are the colors, kind of very similar to that, right?
Right. Basically, you're just trying to, the thought lives up here. They can't see inside your head. If you just try to explain it through purely words, it's not going to come back like you want it. It's still not going to come back exactly like you want it. But if you're working with images and working with examples, you're going to get a lot closer on the first time. Then you just iterate to get it right.
So, okay, let's jump back.
Okay.
You come to the developer.
Yep.
Did you ever worry about somebody like stealing your idea, or how do you protect? Like what? Let's talk about that because I think that's the biggest thing that I was worried about.
So that tends to be one of the biggest worries for most people, and I would tell you, I mean, okay, my way isn't the only way to go about it. There are many other people who will give you the opposite advice, but for me, I'm more worried about. I want to have something that's worth people trying to steal it, right? Than be worrying about how to protect my thing from people trying to steal it. Because most times it's just not going to happen. That's not the reason that most people fail. Most people fail because, one, they never get started. Two, they just produce something. Well, I think producing something that nobody wants is probably one of the biggest things. And the way that happens is people just like have this genius $1 million idea, but it has nothing to do with other people's wants or needs. And a lot of people lose that way. In terms of stealing ideas, I know that The Social Network happened, like that movie, it happened, but that's not usually the biggest thing that you need to worry about in my experience. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not, that's not legal advice, not financial advice. You can do what you want. But for me, I rather just try to get moving as quickly as possible, try to figure out where the opportunity is, and just use speed to be my advantage. And that's worked relatively well for me.
No, that's a good point because I think a lot of people would probably be scared or putting off starting because they're so, they're fearful of somebody stealing their idea, and
right.
They might never start because they're like, well, I don't want anybody to steal this idea. It's like, well,
right.
Okay, you can't.
And so a couple more things just on that point. One is that ideas, there are good ideas, there are bad ideas, but that's not the thing. Like I'll give you a great idea right now. Make a flying car, right? But it's the execution that's going to bring the value to that actual idea. So that's the thing. It's like, don't overvalue the idea. Trust me, if you have a good idea right now, somebody else probably has it as well. The difference is going to be like who is able to bring together the resources and the people, the team, the expertise, the energy, and make it happen, right? So I tend to worry a lot less about that than most people, I think. But if you do want to protect it, then you probably got to talk to a lawyer, and you won't be able to protect the idea. Ideas aren't protectable by IP, but if you're able to turn it into, if there's something about it that's novel and patentable, or is that the right way? You can apply a patent to it, then sure. That if you have a brand name that you want to trademark and you're ready to shell out the bread, you can do that as well. And in some cases, that can make a lot of sense. If you know that that's going to be your long-term brand and people really resonate with it, then sure, go ahead. But for me, I don't lead with the intellectual property stuff. That's something I'd rather get the business popping first, and then I'll consider, all right, let's see how we can protect ourselves now.
Yeah, no,
not legal advice.
Disclaimer. No, but that's good. I always refer back to this quote that I saw one time, and I do not remember it verbatim, but it basically talked about there are a million ideas, or the most ideas are at the graveyard because people die with them,
Right,
and they just never
right.
did anything with them,
No.
So that right there lets me know you have to execute, no matter whether it's good or bad. Action cures all, and that comes from a former guest, Steve Hughes. But
smart guy.
He talked. I mean, the execution. You could talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? And that's what sets everybody apart, is the action and the execution. So I'm glad you touched on that.
And so last thing on this point, like the folks that you find on Upwork for the most part, and any kind of professional firm you go to, like they're in the business of trying to serve clients, and what they want to do is help people make their app and then get paid, get their check, right? They're not really interested in stealing ideas and trying to develop them into whatever. Like that's not their thing. Maybe there are a couple bad actors out there, but that's mostly not the problem that you're going to run into. So that's the way I like to think about it.
Yeah, no, that is true. Everybody has everybody has kind of like their own intentions, and most people's intentions are probably not to be on Upwork trying to get ideas from people. Like the people that have the ideas don't have the time for that. They're out there trying to, make the money versus.
No, it's true. It's true. And the thing, like sometimes I've had people who want to come talk to me about something that they're doing, and they're like, "Hey, can you sign this NDA?" And for me, I'm no longer interested. The thing is, like, I have more ideas than I have time to deal with myself, right? So I'm not going to put the thing that I'm working on down to try to jump on your thing, even if it seems better to me, just because momentum is so important. I know how much it takes besides like the idea to get it going. Even once you develop the app, like having the app is not going to be a business in itself. You then need to market it. You need to monetize it. You need to develop a community around it. You need to support it. So it's like, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing just to steal your thing. And most people who kind of know what they're doing aren't going to do that either. It's just not enough time in the world.
Okay, so I'm glad you touched on marketing and monetization, because I definitely want to get into that. And you already talked about how you spent less than $1,000 on Upwork to get your app. So would you kind of say that's the typical startup cost when starting an app?
Got it. It really depends. It depends on the complexity. It depends on the team you're working with, how much experience they have, what's their track record. Are they based in the United States? Are they based overseas? Right? There are different costs of living that are going to correspond to the cost of what they charge you, right? What I tell people that I work with, if they're coming to me as a student or coming to me for advice, if this is your first app, spend less than $2,000 would be my preference, right? $2,000 or less. And there are different techniques you can use to do that. You can work from their like source code templates for different kinds of apps that you can buy from sites like codecanyon.net, sellmyapp.com. Those are a couple good ones. And that can be a good way to do an initial project. It may not be the biggest thing in the world. You're probably not going to build Facebook, but it can kind of like be an education, get you in the game, get you started, and you're not losing a whole bunch of money off the bat. There's a story I like to tell about. It was a friend of a friend who came to me. I call this the $48,000 lesson. And so he came to me with, I guess this was when I was first starting to have some success in the app game. And he had an app that he had built. He was a doctor. He kind of built it on the side. He dropped 48 grand on this developer to build it. It was some kind of hybrid of a dating app and something else. And so he asked me to take a look at it. I look at the page and I see that, okay, this thing has no reviews, right? There's an analytics site I use called App Annie, and I could see that it was ranked, it wasn't even hitting the charts, so nobody was using this thing. And then he was talking about creating a second version to try to kickstart things and spending 32 grand on this. And I had to tell him, like, please stop and don't do that. And the problem was, he just didn't really know he didn't know what he didn't know. And that's always going to be the case when you're first starting out. So you want to make mistakes on the cheap, learn those lessons on the cheap, and then start to increase your spend as your experience goes up. If you're spending other people's money and you really don't care, then, do what you want. Like if you have a rich uncle or an investor, then, you can act differently and you can burn that cash. For me, I've always spent money out of my own pocket, so I care a lot. And I try to protect the downside. And before my experience is where it needs to be to make those returns, I'm not going to spend a whole lot on that app.
That's such sound advice, to just kind of just build and grow as you go and learn, versus just spending $32,000 or $48,000, like you said, and then it not go anywhere and you're just out of all that money.
Yeah. And so losing the money is bad, but then what's worse is that's going to kill your confidence. It's going to be very hard for you to step back up to the plate and take another shot. And anybody who's an entrepreneur will tell you that it just takes time. It takes reps. It takes at bats. You got to get repetition. You got to put that work in over a long period of time to start seeing the success. And that's often different from the picture that people think. Like people think, okay, I have this brilliant idea. I'm going to get this idea developed into the app. I'm going to put it on the market. Everybody's going to love me. I'm going to be a millionaire, right? That I've seen that happen. I actually did see that happened to one of my friends. He spent about $2 grand on his first app. It was this thing called Split Pick. He put it on the market and the thing just went up and up and up. And he actually did make millions off of this. That's the one time I've seen it. Most times it's not going to go that way. And you just have to be prepared to learn incrementally over time and just give yourself opportunities to get better, gain experience, and, gain that. Like you're not going to go in the gym the first time and do the same work as an Olympian, right? So
right.
You should kind of look at this. It's not different. You have to build up those muscles, build up those skills.
Yeah, you got to put that time and work in.
Yeah.
So a couple of things that you mentioned that I want to touch on. So when you first are looking for a developer, what do you look for in a developer?
I'm looking for a few things there. A major one is communication. So I want to make sure that we can communicate clearly with each other. I understand them. They understand me. They're getting back to me quickly. Like you'd be surprised. Sometimes you're arriving to an interview and you'll say something to somebody and then they'll respond 5 minutes later. This is supposed to be the interview where you're putting your best foot forward and lying to me, right? If it's like this on day 0, it's going to be awful working with you. So I can get rid of that person right away. I'm also looking for, okay, do I believe that this is the person that's done the work that they presented? Can they explain to me how they did certain things? And I don't necessarily need to understand what they've done, but you can tell if you ask follow-up questions to somebody about their work and you ask, okay, what about this piece? What made you do it that way? You can tell if somebody's making it up or if they actually did it, right? So I'll just kind of keep on probing and digging and asking more and more questions. And let's see, what else am I looking for? So we talked about communication. We talked about authenticity, I suppose you call it. That after I kind of go through all of them, I'll just compare I'll compare the performances of the different people. And I just want to have the feeling that, okay, I was talking to somebody who's a standout, who's an A player, who's really going to get it done. And if I don't feel that way, based on everything that I've seen, then I'll just keep on looking, right? You don't want to just settle just because, this is the best of a terrible bunch or something. I'll just keep on looking and looking until I feel like I found somebody that's really going to get it done for the budget that I can afford, right? But then the truth is, even after all of that, you're really not going to know until you start working with the person. because an interview is very different from a project. So I recommend working on like limiting the scope and the budget and the size of that initial project. So it doesn't have to be the whole entire thing, but you just want to kind of see what it's going to be like working with somebody. Do they execute on time? Is what they deliver what they promised? And that can be pretty predictive of what the long-term relationship is going to be. So even though you go through the interview and stuff, the real interview is that first small project.
No, that's so true. That's like with anything, like a job, you can't really, somebody can be a very good interviewer, but then the interview doesn't match up to the actual skills. And okay, I wanted to kind of see what would be questions you would ask to tell the real from the fake. Like if you're new, you don't know anything about apps, when you get to the interview, how do you even decipher, okay, this person is clearly a fraud.
Right. All right. So, I mean, like to be honest, we probably need to spend more time together than we have today to get into that. But some of the things you would do is you would say, I don't know, that they've built some app that's similar to Instagram in their portfolio, right? Then I pull up the app. I say, okay, this is an interesting feature that you have right here. What did you use? Like, what did you use to design that feature, right? Then they might start talking about it. They say this, they say one thing. I say, oh, okay, you mentioned this. Like, where did you learn to do this? What are some other projects where you've put that to use? I'll just try to ask questions off of what they've done and see if the conversation is making sense and like they're able to speak confidently just about their body of work and what they've done, provide real examples. And I don't know. I feel like when somebody is lying, it just sounds different.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. I was just trying to understand, kind of even one question to kind of know. But no, that definitely makes sense. And you also mentioned hiring someone for design. I didn't even know there was like you had that option. I just thought there was one person that did everything else. So you would kind of do the same thing for design, right? Look for someone on Upwork who designs apps, correct?
They just need to be a graphic designer. If they have experience with apps, even better, because they'll be like familiar with what kind of formats to use and different sizes and dimensions. But it's easier to hire an artist just because you can see on your screen exactly what their work looks like. And, I think it's much easier to discern quality there than with something like code, which, there can be a whole lot of stuff going on. You have no idea what's happening unless you're actually digging under the hood, which I'm not.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I feel like, you got to, like you said, go through a few people to try to find the best one and then kind of see where that takes you.
Yeah. But, I'm pretty like the same kind of process and concept I've told you. I have a ton of students that have done the same thing and been successful with it. So, it's not just because I have this background and I've been doing it for so long that it works. It's repeatable. You can do it. It's just a matter of starting and then you get better over time, like with anything.
Yeah, that's so true. The more experience, the more you know. So you talked about marketing a little bit and you talked about, having reviews to show that people are using the app. What are some other ways that you market an app?
Yeah, okay. There are a lot of different ways to market an app. I think, okay, let's take a step back. So before you even get into that, because what'll happen a lot of the time is that people will come to me and they'll say, hey, Moyo, I have this app. And I don't know how to get downloads. How do I get downloads? And you should really start thinking about the marketing of the app before you even create it. So you want to start thinking about it's like with marketing anything, right? Who is the audience for this product? And why are they going to love it? Why is this solving a problem or filling a want or a need for them, right? Because if there aren't good answers to those questions to begin with, I don't care if you're using influencer marketing, using Facebook ads, Instagram ads, and these are all viable channels, right? I don't care if you're walking it up to people's door, right? It's not going to work well because even if they find out about the thing, it's in front of their face, they're not going to download it. If they download it, they're not going to use it for long. So you want to start out knowing, like, who is this thing for? Why are they going to use it? How is it solving a problem or filling a want or a need for them, right? So that's one of the biggest things that people miss, just making sure that there's demand for the app that you're creating, that you're making something that people actually want, right? It sounds obvious, but I don't know. It's not obvious after years. Let's assume that you've done a good job on that. You're making something that people really want. Then, Facebook ads are certainly one way. Facebook or Instagram ads, those can work well. But for you to take advantage of those channels, you have to kind of know that your app monetizes well, and you're going to be able to cover the cost of your ad spend. I know you had a previous guest talk about Facebook advertising. That was a good episode.
Thank you. Shout out to Abu.
Yeah. Shout out to him. So that can work extremely well here as well. Like, I have a couple of friends that pretty much blew up their business entirely on Facebook ads. They're well into, I know they're over 8 figures a year right now in terms of revenue, and Facebook ads is really how they get all their traffic. But in order for that to work, it's like the app needs to monetize at a certain level. Otherwise, you're just going to be losing money all day, right? You can use influencer marketing. So I know that I now know you work for an influencer marketing company. Influencer marketing can be fantastic if you're able to get in front of the right influencers that are right for your target audience, for the people that are going to use your app. That can work really well. But let's say it's in the beginning, you really don't have money, or you don't want to spend much money, right? And you're just trying to, like, get your first users into the app and figure things out. So something that I've started doing, and I started teaching to people that I advise, is that you can have a Facebook group where you're going to keep your community of people that use the app. You can also have an Instagram page for the same community, but on Instagram. You want to set up a basic profile and, like, seed it with some initial content that's going to appeal to the same type of user. And then you can go out and find, one by one, hand to hand, you can find examples of your perfect user, and you'll just go ahead and follow them on Instagram. A certain percentage of them will follow you back, right? You probably heard of this before in other contexts. And you want to make sure that you have a link to your community or directly to your app in your Instagram profile, right? And in this way, I'm not saying it's going to be like, it's not turning on the faucet like Facebook ads, but you can definitely get people to check out what you have going on. And if it looks appealing to them, a certain percentage will download it. And you can the advantage of doing it this way, even though it's slower, is that you can really start to have conversations. You can see what it is that people like about it or don't like about it. They'll give you feedback. They'll be like, this part sucks. So then you have the opportunity to change. I'm serious. But I'd rather somebody tell me, okay, this totally sucks, and I want you to do it this way. And then I have the opportunity to explain to them, engage with them, either show them why I'm doing things a certain way I'm doing it, or I'm like, oh, wow, I should really be taking their advice and it'd be a lot better. And both of those things happen within the Facebook group I have for my current apps right now. And it's been very, very, very valuable.
No, I definitely agree on that. I have a Facebook group for my podcast, and I will, this, you're in the group, but like, even before your episode, I was like, what questions do you have for Moyo? Like, I was able to get that market research beforehand and, really keep the conversation going and really get that,
it's key.
No, I definitely agree on that. And I'm big on marketing. I mean, I obviously work in marketing, but so that market research is key.
I think that's one of the most major. So, like, in my book that I have is called 7 Steps to App Success, and the second step after mindset is market research. And I feel market research is just so important and fundamental. Like, you just want to understand what's the demand for this product, who's using it, where they hang out, what do they like. And the more you can really nail that part, like, the easier it's going to be to do everything else. Like, you're so right about that.
Yeah, creating content, finding them, showing up where they are, because you know exactly who you're looking for and who you're talking to.
Right. And if you don't do it, then it's kind of impossible. You're probably it's not going to work.
Yeah, that's like the key to marketing. It is first step. So, okay, I want to talk about monetization a little bit
Sure,
more.
sure.
So, okay, you create an app, right? And you want to start monetizing. Do you offer a subscription on an app? Like, what are ways that you can start to make money from your app? Like, I know there's advertising, things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So there are a bunch of different ways. Like you mentioned, there's in-app advertising. Um, there's in-app purchases. So, if you offer, say, I have a photography app, I offer a set of frames. People can pay $1.99, $2, $5, whatever, to unlock more frames. Like you just mentioned subscriptions. I love subscriptions. Those were introduced a few years ago into the App Store and Google Play. And the reason why those are a game changer for people who are developing apps is because now, rather than a one-off payment from a customer, you're now able to have recurring. And what that enables me to do, it's easier to build predictability in. It's easier for me to know, okay, this much is coming in, so I can now invest back into it. It's easier to have a real, like a real sustainable app or sustainable business without having like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of customers. You can be serving a much smaller set of customers that value what you're doing, and you can really invest and give them value back in return. So subscriptions are there. They're examples of people doing brand deals or influencer deals in different ways. Different examples, you can partner with an influencer and say split revenues 50%, and they're going to promote it to their audience in exchange for that, or the split can be whatever you want. Or perhaps you can have an app, like let's say I developed an app that was a bartending app, and then Hennessy is going to, perhaps they want to license my app, or maybe they want to buy the whole thing for me, because it's just going to help them to sell a whole lot more Hennessy. Or maybe we can do some kind of rev split. So that's like another different way that not a lot of people think about, that you can make money as well. What else is there? So advertising, in-app purchases, subscriptions, different kinds of brand deals. And then finally, I guess this isn't directly from the app, but you can sell the entire asset. You can sell the app, or you can sell a group of apps, and that can be a good thing as well, if you have the revenues or the intellectual property or both to justify that kind of sale.
And would you say that it kind of depends on the type of app and who the target audience is for the app to kind of decide on how you're going to make money from it? Like for instance, like a workout app might be a subscription versus any other app that could be ads based. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right. No, I think you're exactly right. I think it does largely depend on who you're serving, what the function of the app is, and like what kind of makes sense. Like let's say you have an app that's a flashlight. People aren't going to want to pay a subscription on a flashlight because,
right.
Like why, right? And there's so many different alternatives. But for a workout, people are kind of used to that. You pay a monthly price for your gym. And it just, it kind of lines up in your mind. Okay, I get why I would do that. So like anything where you're offering ongoing content and stuff, a subscription is probably a good candidate. So like, I have this coloring book app right now, and
yes, we're going to get into that.
all right. Well, so I won't get too much into that, but because there's content that refreshes, that's something that people tend to be more willing to pay for. And not everybody pays for most apps. Most freemium apps, the majority of your users are always going to be free, but like some percentage of people will pay for that enhanced experience.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I think, like you also mentioned, starting with the marketing and beforehand, you just start with the monetization beforehand too, so you can know exactly how you want to make money from it before you even develop it,
Right. So it's funny because in Silicon Valley, I guess they do it the opposite way. They just say, let's go get a whole bunch of users and then we'll figure the whole thing out. But the only reason why that works is because you're dealing with large amounts of other people's money. And like these investors, these venture capitalists really don't care if you can't bring them at least $1 billion. So it's just not, in a lot of cases, they feel it's not worth the time to figure out the business model. Let's just get the users in, then we'll figure it out. Now, if you're spending your own money, that's not going to work out well for you in most cases. So I would not recommend that you follow that approach just because Snapchat can do it, right?
Yeah, no, that's true. You got to start with where you are, with what you have.
Yeah, yeah.
So since you already kind of mentioned your app, talk about what, and I know we briefly touched on this, but really what inspired you to create it, and how fun was that to create an app, a coloring book app?
Yeah.
Walk us through that.
Yeah. So, man, it's been a lot of fun. So let's see. So I first kind of started to get the idea a couple years ago. So I didn't know anything about coloring book apps, or I didn't know that adults colored. I knew nothing about the trend. I didn't color since I was a kid, but I was doing research on the App Store like I just routinely do. And I started to see all these different adult coloring books popping up and being successful, being popular, like making good money, because you can see the top grossing charts, and a lot of them were popping up in there. And I said, what is this about? So I started to go in there and play around with them. And then I said, okay, like this is kind of cool. Then I found out, okay, people use these things to relax. They find it therapeutic. And I started to get it. But I really said, okay, this is cool. But I didn't do that much with it at the time. Then I think it was last year or so when Black Panther, was it last year that Black Panther came out?
Yeah.
Okay, so my wife and I went to the theater, saw Black Panther opening night like everybody else, and it was such an amazing experience to see this. And I know this is not about, but I'll bring it back. So to see like this Black movie with a Black cast and Black director, Black actors, Black story in Africa, like just beautiful. And the impact that it made on myself, made on other people in theater, like people across America. My designer, one of my designers in Sri Lanka, said he watched Black Panther 7 times, right? Other developers that I work, like all these people, everybody was watching Black Panther, and this thing was completely Black, right? The only thing behind, I guess the money behind it wasn't necessarily Black, but everything else was Black. And I was just like, wow, this thing, they were unapologetically Black in this movie. They're telling a story that kind of like needs to be told, and just showing us in a positive light. And they were able to make $1 billion doing this. So they made an impact, just in an artistic way, in a cultural way, but then in a financial way as well, just telling a Black story. And I thought about the fact that when I was looking at all these coloring books, I had multiple ideas around it. I saw what Fenty had done as well, and a couple other examples as well. And I said, okay, like how can, my wife and I were talking, like, how can we use our talents to tell some of these Black stories and share cultural experiences and make an impact in our own way? And so this is one of the ideas that kind of came back to me, to us, right? And at the time, I definitely noticed that in most of these different coloring books, Black people were an afterthought. Maybe they include 1 or 2 here and there. But, just like any other kind of media and entertainment, we weren't at the forefront. And you got to think to yourself sometimes, like, we're some of the biggest consumers of some of these products and technologies. So why shouldn't we be celebrated and featured as well? And why can't we be the producers as well? So all those thoughts kind of combined, and that's what led us to making this color noir.
I love that. I actually watched Black Panther 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And just speak, like, okay, first of all, let's just drop a shout out to your wife. Because first of all, her, for those who don't know, she is the host of Side Hustle Pro, and just her podcast in itself is just, it highlights Black women.
Yep.
And that's Black excellence in itself. And she was like one of the first podcasts. It was the first podcast that I've seen where just truly highlighted us. And I I listen to it like
Yeah.
every single week. So we're just gonna give her a little shout out.
Shout out to Nikki. And her podcast was also inspirational to me in the same way. You know, I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, you know, she just recently crossed 2 million downloads, I think last week or something. And yes.
Claps.
But, you know, she did all of this by focusing on Black women and telling the stories of Black women entrepreneurs. You know what I mean? And being very uncompromising about that. And despite that, you know, I'll be in her. I'll be looking through the Instagram all the time, the Facebook group all the time. White guys listen, Asian guys listen. You know, white women are in there. Some of them join into her course and stuff. So just the fact that we're focusing on us doesn't mean that other people can't enjoy it and be involved and get value from it. But hey, you know, like, why not? Like, we're amazing. We deserve to be celebrated as well. So why not, you know, shine those lights, right?
Right. And I think a lot of people think of it as being, you know, like excluding people or only focusing on us. No, we're being inclusive.
Yes.
We're wanting to, you know, showcase us who are not being showcased.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have it.
And I mean, if I were to come out with another coloring book that was just, I don't know, coloring everybody, that already exists. So it's not interesting. You know what I mean? Like, even if there wasn't this, even if I didn't care about, you know, highlighting the stories and this wasn't an emotional and personal thing for me, from a business perspective, it's a lot smarter to focus on an audience that is not being served. Like, for anybody who's out there who's listening, you always want to look for a market need. Like, if you're selling water, right? Do you want to sell water in the desert, or do you want to sell it in, like, I don't know, the water store, right? Like, if you sell in the desert, you could probably charge them 4 times the price because they ain't no water, you know? Same concept there.
Yeah, and people will gravitate towards it because it's not been done.
Yeah.
So
we've definitely, so one of the beautiful things about it since we've been doing it, like, I love hearing from people who say, oh yeah, you know, I started using it. I put my 2 daughters onto it. It's amazing that they can see themselves in their play, right? Because that doesn't have, like, my sister-in-law, she's in Jamaica. Her kids they don't even watch TV for the most part. They watch YouTube and they watch these shows, and it's like straight white kids in all these shows. And it's not that the shows are bad or they're wrong, but why can't they also watch Black kids, right? They are young Black women, and they should see themselves. They should be able to see themselves and think they're beautiful. So I love that we can be a part of providing that to people, like young people. Yeah, it's that aspect of it is just really fun for the both of us.
Yeah, no, I love it. I was actually, I downloaded it and I was laying in the bed the other day coloring.
You got to share it. Tag us. Tag us.
Yeah, no, I am.
That's dope.
What would you say is the biggest challenge that you faced so far when it has came to creating your app?
Oh, okay. Things always come up, right? Like, things just always happen. Like, sometimes, I don't know, you might have a developer that quits on you or doesn't actually know, they're not able to deliver the product that they tell you that they can deliver, or you might be going through the review process and then you get rejected. I remember the first time that I was trying to submit an app onto the Apple App Store, I thought that they just had something against me and I was never going to get an app up because they must have rejected me 8 or 10 times. And, you know, it's just like, I don't know, there's always going to be things that happen, and you just have to try to stay as calm as you can and just really think about what's going on and what is a potential solution. So my dad always used to tell me all the time, he's like, listen, every problem has a solution, right? And sometimes I would just get so pissed. I'd be so annoyed because I'm like, listen, there's no, you know, what are you talking about? This is the worst thing in the world that's happening to me right now. Like, stop saying that, right? But over time, I've learned that he's right. And the more that you can just orient yourself to solving these problems, like, the better off you're going to be. Like, it's going to be something. You know, we started this particular app there was a 1-star review that came in, like, off the bat. It was like before we even started promoting the thing. So just navigating around that, and it was off something dumb, something unrelated. It wasn't even really about the app, but it's just something, you know, you don't want people coming to your brand new products and seeing bam, 1-star review, as the very first thing they see. Now we have like 100 reviews. They're pretty much, I don't know, 99% 5 stars. But we have to figure out, how do we navigate around that? How do we solve that? And it's like, everybody in the world can figure out what are the problems, right? But the people who really get paid and the people who really do well are the people who can figure out solutions. So it's like, you have a choice. Like, do you want to be the guy who can find the problems, or do you want to be the guy who can find the solutions? So for me, I want to just always try to be that guy who can find the solutions. And I think it served me well. So what problems have there been? A lot of problems, right? and each time we just try to look at them, analyze them, keep a cool head, and like, what is the way forward?
And I'm sure with every problem, you've learned a lesson, and you've learned what not to do.
Right.
Know?
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Looking at it from that perspective, it makes you realize, okay, like this is actually a problem right in the moment, but at the same time, it's also a lesson.
Yeah. It's definitely true. It's definitely true. This app, before we got on the store, got rejected several times through the review process. And I just have to look each time, like, what are they saying to me? What is it that they don't like? What is their perspective? And why are they telling me that? Sometimes it seems kind of irrational, like as you're going through the review process, because it will depend on which individual person is reviewing it and how they interpret the rules and even how they're feeling on that day. So you just have to try to think about it, have empathy for them and what they may be going through, and just try to get your thing through, right?
No, that's good to know that actual people look at it, because I just assumed it was
sometimes it's completely ridiculous, but regardless, like if you try to get mad and I guess fight fire with fire and just be like, you guys are idiots, you're stupid, this makes no sense. Most people, when they start their approach, will be like, hey, Apple just rejected me for XYZ. I see this Apple in the store doing XYZ, so this is wrong. This is unreasonable. And they'll tell the person why they're wrong. But like, guess what? That person is still in charge of whether your app is going to move forward or not. So You might be right, but your app still ain't on the store. So like, who's really winning, right?
Like, don't try to fight fire with fire.
Yeah, when you don't have the leverage, then you need to just play nice and like play in their bounds and try not to escalate things to that level until you need to, right? That should be your last report. Right.
So overall, what is one thing you wish you knew before that you know now when you first created your first app?
Oh, wow. Okay. So when I first started creating my apps, it wasn't at the very beginning of the App Store, but it was obviously closer to the beginning than it is now. And I kind of just didn't realize how special that time was and how open everything was. It was kind of like the wild, wild west. And so if I were looking back, I would just tell myself, hey, this time is special. Like, momentum matters. Momentum is a thing. Go as hard as you possibly can right now. And there was a certain time things were working well for me. I was making more money than I'd ever made in my life. And I just started coasting, right? And I would definitely tell myself, don't coast. Like, you need to double down, go hard, and just make this into something really special. That's not only money making, it's going to make impact, and it's going to be like a long-term thing that can be good for your family for a long time, right? Because I believe that it was possible to seize those kind of opportunities, and I really didn't do it to that level.
No, that's good to know.
Yeah, but it's a powerful lesson for now too, because right now I know, when I see even now, so I see momentum with the current app that we've been talking about right now, and it's like I know, okay, you don't play around with that. You need to really go in, right?
Right, you have to really give it your all,
absolutely,
and try to get as much traction and as much, people as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a fact.
Downloading your app.
Yep.
No, that's sound advice. So now we're going to get into what's in your bag. And basically, I'll just ask you a series of questions and you just tell me the first thing that comes to mind.
Let's do it.
Okay. First thing is, what is your favorite money resource?
All right. So my favorite money resource is I like speaking to people that have more experience than I have on various topics. So I think it's always going to depend based on what the topic is. Some people are really good at marketing, or paid traffic. Some people are really good at storytelling. Some people have serious technical knowledge. So I think people have been a really great resource for me.
Yeah, no, that is really good advice. Really having people around you that are smarter than
Yeah,
you. I always say that
yeah, and
you should not be the smartest person of your
nah,
circle.
no doubt. And then the I guess in addition to that, I mean, I just like to leverage knowledge of all different types. So I'm always inside a audio book or a pod. I'm using a lot of audio nowadays. So audio books, podcasts, whatever. However, I can get my hands on things that I don't know that can help me with problems I'm trying to solve right now. That's always a valuable thing for me.
Same. I love that. Next question is, looking back, what is something that makes you say, I'm so glad I did this?
All right. So glad I did this. All right. Let me give you two different things. So one of them, it wasn't really of my doing, but I'm really grateful that in my childhood I was able to travel a lot. So we went to Nigeria a whole bunch of times to visit family there, visit with my grandmas, my aunts, my cousins, and everything. And it was great for me. It was just a mind-opening thing to be able to see that people live in a lot of different ways, and to gain an appreciation for the things that we have here in the United States or the UK, like first world countries, quote unquote. It's not like that everywhere in the world. People have a different set of experiences, so it gave me a different appreciation for what I had. I'll give you a quick anecdote. So like I recall when I first got off the plane, and I'm a young kid, we're walking through the airport, and all these other kids, as we're walking, are trying to like touch my arms, and they're asking me, what I brought for them, what I have for them. And I kind of had the same experience as we're walking all around Lagos all the time. And I flew back from one of those trips, probably when I was 9 or 11 or something. I just said, you know what, like, I'm not ever going to complain about anything in my life ever again, right? And I probably haven't lived up to that ideal, but I'm pretty close. It's just because I realized that most of the things that we look at as problems in life, especially in this country or countries like it, just are not real problems. But having that mindset has really helped me a lot in terms of being able to be grateful for what I have, and just being able to look more at the solution side of things more than the problem side of things, right? And then the second thing I'm really glad that I had more responsibility for this one, is just really invest, like figuring out that I needed to invest in myself at a time when things were not working out well for me. And then by doing that, that was able to really just change my life, right?
Number 4, what would make 2019 a good year for you?
I mean, 2019 is already a good year. I'm alive. I have my full health about me. My parents are healthy. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm just grateful. I'm grateful for everything. Certain things I do want to accomplish in terms of business and my mission. I'm just like, I am really focused right now on what are the things that I can do to like use the amount of influence that like my circle of influence to, I guess, increase our presence within the app world, since that's something that I work on a lot. How can I improve the app that we have, Color Noir, and just really make that into one of the best apps in the store and represent us in a positive way? And, just do that. I'd also like to we have some other apps, some other products that are coming along with kind of the same mission. And then also help other people, because, there are, 7-8 billion people in the world. I can't serve them all. So other people have some great ideas, some great things they want to get going. So just how can I best scale what I know in my experience in order to help other people do similar things, whether it be, well, for me, it's mostly going to be in terms of creating different kinds of apps and how can they turn that into things that are going to succeed, get downloads, do good business, and that whole kind of thing. So definitely very passionate about those things. If I can do some of those things, that'd be a great year.
Game changing.
Hope so.
It's always dope when you help other people.
Yeah. And so, it's like, that's when you feel the best, and that's when you make the most money as well. Like in my experience, you know what I mean? Like sometimes people think that doing good business has to be opposite from helping people. And I reject that. I don't believe, I mean, there are examples, you see like with the financial crisis in Wall Street, where those things seem to be diametrically opposed, but I don't think it has to be that way. Especially in the age that we're living in with social media, the way we're all connected. I think that if you do good work, you really help people. It can only benefit you. It can only build your reputation, build your business, build your brand, and help you to make more money and more impact. So that's what we're trying to do, right?
Yeah. I think that should be like, I think that's one of our purposes is to help other people in life. Like most people are always about self, but you do get a lot further when you help build other people up at the same time.
Right. And like, just, think about it logically, right? So thinking about from other people's perspective, right? Like, who are they going to care more about? Are they going to care more about somebody who cares only about themselves? Or are they going to care about somebody who's like helping them to put money in their pockets, or helping them to feel good after a long day of work, or, helping them with their fitness, helping them with their mental health, like whatever. Like, people like people who help them or like them or do something for them. So if you're doing more to help people, they'll probably want to do something to help you back, right? It's reciprocity.
Scratch my back, scratch your back. Yeah, exactly. Number 5, what is a personal habit that helps you secure the bag?
All right. Okay. So, man, I know you asked for one, but in terms of securing the bag, I think something that I tend to do well is I will learn and not get stuck in the learning thing, but also put the thing into practice, and then just be resilient and, be intense and be resilient about it. Right. So I just believe that success in anything is normally going to not happen tomorrow. It's going to take a long period of time. And, you have to go at it with intensity. You have to go at it hard, like you really want it. You can't just you can show up to the gym and do the same exact workout, just go through the motions, do everything you were told to do. But if you're not doing it with a certain intensity, you're not going to get the same results as the other guy who is. So it's like, you want to have that intensity. You want to be intense about your learning. You want to be intense about your execution, doing that as quickly and as hard as possible, and just repeating the process. And then you just want to be able to continue on and be resilient when things aren't picking up right away, because they almost never will.
No, that's fact. It even, like you said, first of all, just taking the first step to show up, like taking the action to show up, be resilient, give it your all. Like that is what is going to bring you results at the end of the day. Yeah, no,
that's a fact. And, I think what you're doing here with the show and just highlighting different people's stories is really important. Because I know for me in my life, it was important sometimes to just see. So my take a step back. My grandma and my mom had this phrase that they always used to say. They didn't make it up. It's like a Nigerian thing, but they'll just say, "Does he have 2 heads?" Right? And it's just to mean when somebody does something that's extraordinary, that's special, that's whatever, it's like, okay, they did it. Like, why can't you do it too? Right? So by you, for me in my life, when I've been able to see real people do amazing things, it just made me realize, okay, this guy did it. He's not like a unicorn, right? So it probably means that there's a way to do it, and I just need to figure out that way to do it, and it's possible. So by you exposing these stories on your show, just regular people doing things that other people want to do, I think it will help to give some people that power of, okay, this is possible. Let me give it a try. Let me keep going, and let me make it happen for me. So shout out to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that because that's literally my whole goal is to highlight just and I that was my thing, regular people, but I'm like, ooh, that sounds so weird. But like, no, for real, like everyday people who are doing these amazing things that nobody is talking about, so that other people get inspired
Yeah.
to say, okay, she works 9 to 5, he works a 9 to 5. He started this side hustle or he started this thing even with this 9 to 5 or whatever it is, to say you can go beyond that. You can be creating a podcast beyond your 9 to 5. You can create an app beyond your 9 to 5. You can do all these amazing things beyond society's norm,
Yeah. Especially today, especially with like, if we were talking, I don't know, 50 years ago, it'd probably be a lot harder without, no, seriously, people back, it was a lot harder and a lot more expensive to start a business years ago than it is right now. And like, that's an opportunity that we really shouldn't take for granted. So a lot of it just comes down to, like you said, just start something, give it a shot, and just keep on learning more and keep on going. The thing is, there are so many different ways to flip it. I'm sure you talk to real estate people, stocks people who do Facebook ads, now an app person, and all of these things can work, right? But it's just like they can't all work for you at the same time. So it's like you need to kind of do some self-awareness, self-assessment, figure out where you think that you would enjoy operating, and then just focus on that thing and work really hard at it over a period of time. And I bet you'll get some results. Most people will listen to this and be like, okay, that was a cool piece of entertainment. That's cool for him. He's probably a genius. And I'm serious. And it's a shame.
Yes. It's true.
But there will be a couple people who are like, all right, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna give that a shot. I'm going to buy a book. I'm going to just put something out. The first one is going to be crappy. The next one's going to be better. And eventually I'm gonna get there. And those are the kind of people that are able to embrace that mentality that are just going to win over a long enough period of time. You know what I mean? It doesn't even have to be apps. It doesn't have to be on a podcast, but they're going to win at something.
Right. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because a lot of people do have that mentality like, oh, good for him, good for her, whatever, but that's not going to work for me. That right there in itself is the first self-sabotaging behavior when you have limiting beliefs to say, oh, that's not going to work for me. How do you even know? Because you haven't even tried it. You're literally telling yourself it's not going to work. So then you just, you're right. Like the quote from Henry Ford, if you say you are, if you say you're not, you're right.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? It is because you believe the things that you say. So you have to first be positive and say, I can do this.
Yep.
Like you said, with your mom and your grandmother, how they said, does he have two heads? Yeah. That's so true. That is so true. What's so different from them than me? They took action. That's probably the biggest difference.
A lot of the people that we look up to and admire, right, and just assume that they have everything figured out, a lot of times the biggest difference is that they're just willing to kind of figure it out on the go, right? It's not that they know everything or have all the answers. It's just that they don't mind messing up and then having to redirect a little bit and then, moving forward again. And then guess what? They're going to teach you about it later in their course after they do that. But the only difference is that they were just willing to make those mistakes and work through it.
Yeah. And I always tell myself, fail fast, fail hard, and, move on.
Right. No, it's true. As long as you're limiting your downside, so those failures aren't going to take you out of the game. You don't have to live on the street. Although, some people actually do fail all the way. And that when you're at that feeling of rock bottom, I'll tell you, not that you want to be there, but it's powerful. Like when you just feel like things can't get much worse, that can be a really powerful, motivating feeling that will just enable you to do things that you wouldn't otherwise. So when I went to leave Microsoft and things were just going bad and the way people talked to me was so negative, I kind of started to believe that I wasn't a smart or capable person just because of the environment. And I'm mad at myself a little bit for allowing that to happen, but I wanted to get out of there so badly that I was taking action at a level that is difficult for me to take action right now. You know what I mean? It's just because there's that feeling of discomfort that I want to move away from. And usually people are moving, like entrepreneurs or people who gain success are moving towards pleasure or away from pain. For a lot of us, it's away from that pain, right? I would love to say, I just had all these beautiful things I wanted to create. No, it was at that time I wanted to get out. I wanted to do something different. I knew I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew that it wasn't that.
Right. No, that's so true. And your environment can sometimes push you to do things and push you out of your comfort zone. So, sometimes it is good to be in a hostile or discomforting environment so that you do step outside of your realm and do something that you might have never done had you not been in that situation.
Yeah. And then if you can find like the right people at that point who are where you want to be, or at least a few steps ahead of you on that path, and you can just like look at their blueprint. It's never going to be the exact same steps that you follow. There's always twists and turns, but at least it will shortcut your learning curve. You find those people, you figure out how to get close to them. You got to pay. And then you just make it happen.
No, it's true. A lot of people don't even want to pay to get in those rooms.
Yeah.
You have to. I mean, but that's even like you're paying to get in college to separate yourself from people that only went to high school. You have to pay to get in those rooms in college. So the same thing for business. If you want to get somewhere fast, you have to pay to get in those rooms as well.
Right.
Same situation.
Yeah, ultimately, I definitely understand if you don't have the resources to pay somebody, then just you got to be that much scrappier and that much hungrier and just realize, okay, I'm going to absorb every piece of relevant free information and I'm going to apply it like a madman and just make it happen. But like, if you find the right resources and the right people spending that money, what it does, it can just like, if I hadn't found those courses that I invested in initially, me getting to the point that I got, it would just take more years. I'm not sure it actually would have happened because I might have just been like, okay, this thing I don't know how to do this. It doesn't work. Let me just try something else. So, I understand if you can't do it yet, you don't have those resources, fine. Just, you're going to pay one way or another. It might be with your time. It might be with your money, but like you got to pay. You got to pay the price.
No, that's so true. Whether, like you said, your time or your money, you got to pay in some form or fashion.
Right. And time can be more expensive. You can make more money, but like, show me how to make more time.
Right. No, right. That's true. And then it's like, if you can find the money to invest to get you there a lot quicker, the time that you would have spent working on it, you now have back.
Yeah.
Because you invested yourself. But I mean, we could go all day.
Yeah.
So my last question, which I kind of feel like we just covered, but I always ask for those out there who are wanting to secure the bag beyond a job, what homework would you give them?
All right. So let me see. What value can I offer? I don't want to be generic with this. So trying to secure your bag beyond a 9-to-5 job. So we definitely talked about living below your means. I really want to reiterate that. Like, if you're serious about you want to leave your job, then it's going to be a lot easier if you're not feeling that pressure of, okay, if I don't make money on day one, then I'm finished, right? So just try to stack some money away. Try to, limit your spending down to the things that you need, not that you want, but that you need, right? Then I think it's a matter of figuring out what do you want to do? Like, what are you interested in doing? What do you like doing? And where are there opportunities within that? Because like we kind of discussed before, there's just a million different paths. And if you try to follow all of them, you're going to get lost. So kind of figuring out what's that goal? What do you want to do? And then once you know that, like, what are the sources of information? Who is credible here? Who has a track record? Who can I follow? And like, how can I get that information that's going to help me? Then once you have that, then really just, it's about, you want to learn, but you don't want to learn too much. Like, you want to learn enough to start executing and then just keep on repeating that process. So just in time learning, right? So it's like learning enough to take a step forward. Like, don't read chapters 1 through 96, right? Read chapters 1, 2, 3, then start moving forward, right? Then you figure out, oh crap, like I have my app out, but I don't know how to get downloads. How do I get downloads? Okay, then you read chapter 4 and 5. Okay, that's how I get. So like, you just want to keep on learning, then execute. I mean, it doesn't have to be just like that, but like, you want to make sure that you're not just delaying this plan until some like lofty time in the future when you know everything, because you'll never know everything. So you just want to learn, execute, learn, execute, learn, execute. And, I think if you just keep doing that and keep like looking for better people, knowledgeable people, positive people, you're probably going to make progress if you stick with it.
Oh, that's really good. That's a really good note to end on, especially because I always say if you have something that's perfect, you waited too long.
Yeah, you can't. Like, unless your name is Jesus Christ, or I don't know. I'm not sure if Muhammad was perfect or something, but like, you're probably not perfect. And whatever you put out, there's always going to be something wrong with it. Like, somebody's always going to have a problem with it. So you might as well just make that happen quicker, right?
Exactly. Just how you touched on when you said you put your app out, you got a 1-star review. You overcame it. You know what I mean? Like somebody, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like that person, you can, no matter what, like that person is going to be there. Those negative people, the people that are not going to like it, they're going to be there. Yeah. And it's like, if you don't have those people, are you really doing it?
Right.
Like, are you really doing something right if you don't have haters? So I'm just saying, like, you have to not even worry about those people. You have to push those people aside, do what you are called to do or what you're wanting to do, and the rest will work itself out. Don't worry about the haters. You want haters.
Absolutely. And the final, this popped into my mind as you were talking. So, when you have this goal that you want to start making some money and leave your business, just realize that you don't have to like eat the whole elephant in one bite. A lot of people want to come out the gates and create Amazon. Amazon took like, I don't know, 20, 30 years to get there, right? It's just not going to happen for you. So, just take it one step at a time. Like if you haven't made a dollar online yet, right? Like figure out a problem that you can solve that can make you $1. Make your first $10, then start working your way up to 100 to 1,000. And like, you'll make more progress that way than trying to sit back and figure out what is the home run I can hit tomorrow that's going to make me $1 million by Friday, right? It's not going to happen.
Take it brick by brick.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is such a good conversation. I know that people on here got so many nuggets, so they're probably going to want to reach out to you for advice, questions, want to buy your book, everything. So let the people know how they can reach you.
Oh man, so many ways. So the first thing, the project that's really important to me right now is Color Noir. If it's the kind of thing that would appeal to you, check it out. We're on the App Store right now. Just search for Color Noir. And we'll be on Google Play soon as well. I'm catching a lot of heat for that. So we're working on it, trying to make it happen.
Android.
Team Android, we love you as well. In terms of the book, that's available at appmagic.co/book. Thought that was a good URL. And that's called The 7 Steps to App Success. It's about 108 pages long, and people have been enjoying that as well. Anybody who's interested in taking the course on app entrepreneurship, it's called App Moguls. Having a ton of fun with that. Like I love when I hear from somebody who's in the course, one of my App Moguls. The other day I was in the supermarket, and one of my students hit me up, and he was just like, yo, I just crossed 1,000 for the month. This is the first time I'm doing that. It's recurring. Next month, I think we're going to get 2K recurring. And he's just kind of rolling. So it's like, it's fun. It's fun to see other people succeed with something that they didn't know how to do, that they didn't know they could do. Most of these people are not, don't have experience in this business. So yeah, if you're interested in doing that kind of thing, then man, I don't have a webinar rolling yet. Maybe I will soon, but you can go to appmagic.co/get started. And there's a short application you can fill out there.
I will link to all the links in the show notes.
Okay, awesome. And of course, my podcast is, how could I forget? My podcast is the Game of Grow podcast. try to share real life stories of entrepreneurship and just tell you what I'm going through while building this business, different lessons that I learned, either from myself, from different guests or mentors. I'm about to talk to one right now in a couple of minutes. So that's a ton of fun. Search for Game of Grow on your platform of choice or gameofgrow.com/podcast. Hopefully I touched everything. If I didn't, I don't know.
I would definitely link to everything in the show notes. Yeah. So we will have you covered.
All right, cool.
I really, really appreciate you taking the time to drop all the little gems throughout this entire episode. I was literally hanging on every word, like, okay, next thing you got to do is taking notes. So this was so good. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast. Definitely got to come back sometime in the future.
Of course. We'd love to have you back on the show.
Thank you for tuning in to the Game of Grow movement. If you'd like to hear more, head to gameofgrow.com to sign up for my weekly updates about my own journey as I create the powerful, profitable, and impactful business of my dreams. And I want to hear about your journey as well. And if you want to connect on social media, I'm at Game of Grow on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. On LinkedIn, just search for my name. Don't forget to join us in the Game of Grow community, which you can search for on Facebook. And if you love the show, the biggest way you can help is to subscribe, rate, and review, and then find a like-minded friend you can help to do the same. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you soon.